Hello and welcome all to the technical training session of Autel on the topic tire pressure monitoring system. This session is recorded and the video will be uploaded onto our YouTube channel and Facebook page with the name Autel IMEA. So introducing myself, I am Vivek George and I'm the technical support engineer for India, Middle East and African region. So in today's presentation, as you can see in our cover picture, we'll be talking about the tire pressure monitoring system, and we will be covering various key concepts and ideas of tire pressure monitoring system, and it will introduce you to some of Autel's TPMS tools and sensors. So let's begin with defining what a tire pressure monitoring system is. So the tire pressure monitoring system, or often in short referred as TPMS, is a system which is designed to measure air pressure on the wheels of an automobile and alert the driver when the air pressure of tires is below or more than 25% from the manufacturer specifications. So as you can see on the right side, this image, it's the TPMS warning lamp. So most of you might have seen that in some cars. So you might be already familiar with that warning lamp. So this is the first thing you could understand from on seeing that warning lamp is that your car is equipped with the tire pressure monitoring system. And the next thing you could understand is there is a fault with the system. That's the reason why the warning lamp comes up. On the coming slides, we'll be focusing more on understanding how the system works and different reasons why this warning lamp comes up. Moving on. So currently car manufacturers follow two types of tire pressure monitoring systems, which are the indirect system, as you can see here, and the other one is the direct system. And in the indirect system, there aren't any sensors in the wheel. Vehicle uses the ABS wheel speed sensor data to gauge the tire pressure difference from its base setting. So it calculates the amount of air pressure in the wheel from the revolutions per second of the wheel rotation. So that's how it works. And talking more about this indirect system, the system is not very common, even though it's cost effective than the direct TPMS system, because of some concerns, including the pressure is only measured at the rate of wheel rotation. So if the wheels are not rotating at a certain RPM, then that means the live tire pressure data cannot be retrieved from the vehicle. And others, the inaccurate if new tires are of different size. So basically, if you change the tire size from the OE recommended tire size, and basically if the diameter of the tire has been changed, so the revolutions, you could think of the revolutions per second of the wheel rotation will change as well. So once the ABS wheel speed sensor takes the data from a wrong revolutions per second, it calculates it different. So definitely the air pressure calculated by the ABS wheel speed sensor in the indirect system won't be accurate in that case. And the other one is that, so once this warning lamp, the warning lamp, TPMS warning lamp comes up in your dashboard due to a loss of air pressure, and you fill air pressure, you will always have to restart or reset the TPMS tire pressure monitoring system in the vehicle to activate it again. As I've told you before, it is a system which is less expensive than the direct TPMS. Now let's talk about direct TPMS. and see some of the advantages of using such a system on a car. So a direct TPMS is a system which uses a TPMS sensor which is installed in your wheel, which is in the rim, attached to the attached to your air pressure valve, and it uses an antenna system to receive signals from the tire pressure sensors and continuously relays that information to the vehicle's ECU. So that's how the direct TPMS works. And unlike indirect TPMS, you can always get the live tire pressure data from the direct TPMS, even though the car is stationary. More accurate than the indirect TPMS, and battery lasts about a decade. So what that means is, okay, the TPMS sensor uses a cell battery. So the cell batteries as a life, and it can last up to 10 years. So that's the good part of it, even though it uses a cell battery. No reset after inflation, like a indirect TPMS system, is required. So let's move on. As I have told you before, I'll be talking about different reasons why the TPMS warning lamp would appear on your dashboard. So the first fault that could happen would be a TPMS sensor is faulty. As you can see here, if the TPMS sensor gets faulty, it's an electronic component, so it can get tampered off. If the pressure valve is damaged, you will have it becomes faulty and the warning lamp comes up. The next one, if the TPMS sensor battery is weak. So if just the battery is weak, you'll get the tire pressure data from the wheel, but still you'll get the warning lamp. So that's one reason. And the other reason, the TPMS sensor does not match the stored sensor position. So all the TPMS sensor comes with a unique ID. So we program a code, we give it a name. So that name is stored into the ECU for a particular location. I mean, for example, on the front right, we have stored that particular sensor into the ECU. And if that position changes from where it has to be to a different position, then the TPMS warning lamp might come up. Then TPMS sensor not programmed. As I told you before, we have programmed a sensor for a particular location with a particular name and data. And if it is not given such informations, like if it's not programmed, then the car will suspect that there is no TPMS sensor active in that particular location. So in that case, the TPMS warning lamp would come up. The next one is installed wrong frequency sensor to the vehicle. Usually TPMS system works on two frequencies. One is the 433 megahertz and the other one is 315 megahertz. So the TPMS sensor sends a signal to the vehicle's antenna system with this particular frequency, one of this frequency. So if we use a TPMS sensor which sends 315 megahertz and fits it into a car which is required to have a 433 megahertz sensor, then the antenna system wouldn't receive that radio signal. So that means, again, the car would think the sensor is not present in the car and the warning lamp will come up. Then the other one is TPMS control unit is faulty. So there is a control unit which controls the tire pressure monitoring system, and if it gets faulty, yes, definitely the TPMS warning lamp would come up. Moving on. So now we will look more onto TPMS sensors and how it transmits data to the vehicle's ECU. So in order to transmit TPMS data, the TPMS sensor should be awake or be active. So Now I'll tell you the different ways to wake up a TPMS sensor or to get it active for us to retrieve the data from it. The first one is loss of tire pressure. As I told you before, if there is a pressure difference of 25% up or down, then the TPMS warning lamp would come up, the sensor would be activated, and it will send signal through the antenna to the vehicle's ECU and gives you the warning lamp for TPMS. And the other one is using a Relearn magnet, activation Relearn magnet. The people who see who already owns a Autel TPMS tool will have noticed that activation magnet is placed on the TPMS toolbox. So basically, you could use this activation Relearn magnet to wake up or activate the TPMS sensor, and this can be only used in some older vehicles, like old Ford vehicles needs this Relearn activation too. Other way to wake up the TPMS sensor is by sending a 125 kilohertz of radio frequency to the TPMS sensors. So this is basically carried out by using a TPMS tool, a professional TPMS tool like the Autel TPMS tools, which sends a radio frequency of 125 kilohertz to force the TPMS sensor to get active. That's how we usually trigger the TPMS sensor to get the TPMS sensor data. And the other way to get a TPMS sensor active or wake up the TPMS sensor is the centrifugal force. So this is when the car's wheel rotate at a speed of 20 miles per hour. The sensor starts sending the signals to the vehicle antenna and detect if there is any loss of air pressure in the tires and warns the motorist if necessary. So now we know how to wake up a sensor or activate the sensor. So now we should know what are the informations we could get or collect from a TPMS sensor. The first one is the air pressure in the tire. So that's the main thing, that's the main motive of the whole system, is to understand the tire pressure. And the other one is the temperature. So the air temperature inside the wheel can be measured using this system. And the next one is battery life. So as I told you, it works with the battery. The direct TPMS system works with the battery. So we could know if the battery is weak or in a good state if we wake up the sensor. So these are the info. And one other important information we could gather is that before I mentioned, we give all the sensor a name, and the name is actually a code in case of TPMS sensors. So each TPMS sensor will have a unique code. So it can be either in the form of decimal or in an hexadecimal form. Decimal, as the name says, it's all numbers, a certain set of numbers. Hexadecimal is a combination of numbers and alphabets. Now moving on. So let's start with the basics of TPMS. We'll be talking about, in this slide, we will focus on different components which are involved in a tire pressure monitoring system, and we'll see how those components interact with each other to carry out its job effectively. As I have listed here, the main components in the working of a direct TPMS system are the antenna or the receiver. This is the antenna, which you can see. It could be positioned anywhere in the car, usually on this location. And the other one is the TPMS sensor itself, so which is positioned on the wheels, all the four wheels or the five wheels, including the spare wheel. then a vehicle information center or a display. So we take the tire pressure data, sends radio signals to the receiver, and we see that on the display dashboard. On talking further about the display and the type of tire pressure monitoring system, that we can classify into two. There's a I-line system and a low-line system. So in the I-line system, I-line TPMS system can give more specific information of the vehicle TPMS system, which includes the tire pressure on each wheel locations. Rather than just giving you a warning lamp, it gives you the exact tire pressure on each wheel locations. Whereas in the low-line system, only you will get a warning lamp of such on your display. So then later on, you will have to figure out what the actual problem is with the, or which tire has a loss of tire pressure by using a air pressure gauge to understand which tire has the loss of air pressure. 98% of the chance you get the warning lamp is because of the loss of air pressure or the damage sensor. And some facts to be noted about the tire pressure monitoring system warning lamp. I mean, talking about this warning lamp is that on the first ignition key or the warning on the warning lamp check, you can visually inspect the tire pressure monitoring system warning lamp along with it. So that can show you if your your car is equipped with the tire pressure monitoring system, or if it's not active, that means there is some kind of defect with the system. And warning, if the warning lamp, so once you're driving and the TPMS warning lamp comes up, and if the warning lamp is steady, warning light is steady, that means there is a there's a pressure difference of 25% from the manufacturer specified value. So you can correct the air pressure and it will reset on its own. And in case if you find the TPMS warning lamp blinking on your dashboard, that means some component of the tire pressure monitoring system is faulty. So that component will have to be replaced. So now moving on. Okay, so now this is the part where we have to really understand the core of TPMS. So let's take a look at this illustration of this vehicle. So as you can see here, there are 5 TPMS sensors in this wheel, including the spare wheel, and all the sensors as a unique sensor ID, and it's all different. And as you can see, there's a control unit positioned on the car. So it could be anywhere in the car for TPMS. It's called the TPMS ECU. And this particular tire pressure monitoring system sensor, which is on the front right, has the same code, same ID stored on the ECU for that particular location. And that's the same case with all the sensors on all the 5 locations. So what we are trying to achieve is that the sensor IDs, in this case it's an hexadecimal ID, and the wheel location match the information in the car TPMS control module. So this ID and this ID stored in the TPMS control module for that particular location should match. So that's the so this is our goal when servicing a TPMS, and this is going to be true for any vehicle we work on in any different circumstances. Right, so the continuity of the information is that we're trying to achieve each vehicle as a unique sensor ID, as I've told you, at each location. And the reason for that is, so when two vehicles are going down the road next to each other, both having a TPMS feature, one car is not, so we should make sure that one car does not pick up the signal, TPMS signal, from the another vehicle's TPMS transmission. So that's our goal here. So that's why we program it uniquely. Each sensor should be programmed uniquely with the different codes. So this is very simple. It's a very simple concept, but all we want to do is make sure that the IDs, these IDs at the wheel matches the ID locations which is stored in the vehicle's ECU. For instance, if you perform a wheel rotation, so when you go to a tire shop and you perform the wheel rotation, or you go to the service center, that's been done commonly. On this vehicle that has an I-line system, which I mentioned before, exact pressures and wheel locations are indicated on the dash, as I've told you before, on an I-line system. In many cases, as these tires are rotated, rotated as in the front tires goes to the back. For example, the front right tire with this sensor, which holds this TPMS sensor, goes to the rear, and same as this one, and these goes to the front. So the whole wheel is usually moved. The sensors are not taken out and positioned later on. So the whole wheel with the sensor which holds this ID is moved to a different location. And once that's done, there is a the I-line system will give you inaccurate information on your dashboard, because the ECU still doesn't know that the position of the wheels has been changed. So the stored values will still be on the situation where the tires have not been rotated. So that's why certain procedures or services TPMS service has to be carried out while doing a tire rotation and various other conditions. I hope that is clear. So, and now some common terminologies you might come across while servicing a tire pressure monitoring system is TPMS relearn and sensor programming. So what is a relearn procedure? So a relearn procedure refers to anytime we add a new sensor ID to a vehicle. So a new sensor ID is, we change the location of the sensor ID. So we need to teach the vehicle the location of the tire and location of the wheel and the new sensor ID. So basically, as I told you, if the location of the sensor has been changed, or a new sensor ID has been registered into the system or added to the car, then that we should inform the ECU about the change. So that's what we do in a relearn procedure. Professional TPMS tool like Autel TPMS tool has these features to do do the relearn procedure. And the other terminology is the TPMS sensor programming. So programming only refers to taking a blank sensor or a universal programmable style sensor, such as the Autel MX sensors, and we give it an identity. So it's so that it's ready to be added to a vehicle. We will discuss more about sensor programming on the later slides. So coming back to TPMS relearn, so there are certain situations or conditions where we will need to perform a TPMS relearn procedure, and some of the certain situations are some of the faulty sensors. So once you have a sensor, once you replace a sensor once you replace a faulty sensor, you are giving the sensor, you might be changing the location, or you might be giving it a new code or program. So you will have to let the ECU know that you are putting a new sensor into that particular location. So that's why, and that's one scenario where you need to perform a relearn procedure. And the other one is tire rotation, as I've told you before. Once you change the position of all these sensors, it's all mismatched, and your ECU, TPMS ECU doesn't know about it. So in order to update your ECU about the change in positions, you need to do a relearn procedure. So yeah, on replacing a TPMS module. So when you replace a TPMS module, TPMS ECU, all the stored position data is lost. I mean, the new ECU won't have any of those data. So what you have to do is you will need to relearn all the wheels, carry out a relearn procedure so that ECU can know what the current status of the car, sensor position and other data from the TPMS sensors. So installing winter tires or having a new set of tires, you will be taking out the sensor from, in case you replace the rims, you will be taking out the sensors from the wheels. So, and putting it on to a different location maybe, or so it's more of like a tire rotation, what happens there as well. So it's more of a similar situation what happens there. So in that case, you'll have to carry out a relearn procedure.
So now we already understood why we would need a relearn procedure. Now we'll talk about different relearn methods. There are mainly three relearn methods available on Autel tools. And the first one is the stationary relearn. The stationary relearn actually uses the professional TPMS tool to get the vehicle into the relearn mode, and new IDs can be registered into the vehicle's ECU on carrying out certain procedures. Like for example, by using a activation relearn magnet, as I've mentioned on one of the previous slides. So certain procedures like that could be carried out and can do a relearn. So as the name says, the vehicle could be on a stationary position while carrying out this procedure. Doesn't have to be running. And the other method is the auto relearn. So auto relearn is when you could drive it. This is applicable to a lot of vehicles. So you could take the car and drive it for a certain distance at a certain speed. Then it would reset carry out the relearn procedure on its own. Then OBD right to vehicle. So OBD right to vehicle is only by using a professional TPMS tool. You force the TPMS. You send the 125 kilohertz frequency trigger all the sensor and force the ECU to learn all the TPMS data which from the sensors and write it onto the ECU. So which is very common in Japanese vehicles nowadays. And yeah, OBD right to vehicle is possible on almost all the vehicles nowadays, yes. So now talking about the TPMS sensors available in the aftermarket. So there are direct fit TPMS. First one is the direct fit or OE equivalent replacement. As the name says, these are the direct replacement or for the sensors you got from the OE manufacturer. So it will have the same program for your car with the same code. So just replace it. You don't need to program it. Just carry out the relearn procedure and the car ready to move. But the biggest disadvantage is of this sort of sensors is the availability. So it only works for a specific set of cars. So a specific car probably. So it is not always available at your parts store, nearest parts store. So it will have to be ordered, and you'll have to keep the car holding on your service center or your car for some days without the TPMS system active. And the other one is the multi-fit. So multi-fit came into the market trying to get some more advantages over direct fit, which is it works in a similar principle of the direct fit, which but it is programmed to work on multiple cars, not just one equivalent car or equivalent one car. So if one of this sensor can only be programmed to one car, maybe this set of sensor can be programmed to 10 different cars. So I just wanted to understand the idea between those, but still it's not a convenient solution for resetting or relearning the TPMS system. I mean, and the other one is programmable universal blank sensors. So this is something like Autel MX sensors. So once you you get a car, and whenever you want, these are blank sensors. You can use Autel TPMS tool, or if you're using a different brand of sensors, you can use its designated TPMS tool to program any sort of sensors for any cars at any time. So it's the most convenient form of technology that is available in the market as of now. One very big advantage or big feature Autel has is about it's on the MX1 sensor, which has a dual frequency sensor. So if you want to program a 315 megahertz sensor or a 430 megahertz sensor, you don't need different type of sensors. You can program the same set of sensors on both the frequencies. That's a very unique feature comes with Autel MX1 sensor. And some of the common programming methods which an Autel TPMS tool can perform are copy by activation, copy by OBD, copy by input, auto create. So copy by activation is on basically taking the data available on your existing sensor. So if it is possible to retrieve the data from your existing sensor, which is on your car, and copy that information from that sensor and pasting it onto the new sensor. So you don't require a relearn procedure after doing such a programming, this method of programming. And copy by OBD is another very unique feature which Autel provides in the market. So if you don't have your old sensor with you, I mean the sensor is totally damaged, or you don't have a sensor in your car, so you could retrieve the sensor data for that particular relocation from the TPMS ECU with the TPMS scan tool or from Autel, and you can retrieve the data from there and program a new sensor with that same data. So again, this will allow you to not to carry out a relearn procedure after programming uh, such a programming and programming the sensor. And copy by input. Copy by input is not a very common procedure, but in case if you are able to do it, you can do it. So you're basically putting in the code of the TPMS sensor into the new sensor. So that's a way of programming. Usually it's the sensor ID is mentioned on the sensor itself. Or if you can retrieve it in some other way, you can do it and paste the same code into new sensor. In this, even in this, if you are using the same SKU or the sensor ID of the previous sensor, you don't need to do a relearn procedure. Auto create is for if you don't have any sensor data and you want to keep on adding new sensors with a new ID, so you program a sensor with a new ID for that particular car and just carry out the relearn procedure. So Autel has all the solutions covered for programming sensors. Now, I will start with a general overview of the TPMS data screen, and then we'll show you how to utilize it during diagnostics. So the informations which we could get from the sensors and retrieve on the TPMS tool of Autel are the pressure, temperature, battery life of the TPMS sensor, malfunction indicator status. So you can, that's to know what is the actual problem with the TPMS system, and the location match or mismatch, like the example I told you about rotation. So if the location is mismatched, it will show you. And the DTCs, the other, I mean, diagnostic trouble codes, presence of a duplicate sensor. So if two sensor holds the same program or same ID, it shows you, it warns you on that as well. And sensor ID, yes, and explanation of the malfunction, faulty presence of a faulty sensor. So all these points or all these informations can be displayed on a single screen on Autel TPMS tools. That's the major advantage of using an Autel TPMS tool. And all the informations are shown on different color code icons, which lets the user to identify the problem or understand the system much easily. So yeah, we try our best not to give you not to do a guesswork or any comebacks. So this is to eliminate the risk of a costly mistake by inexperienced technicians. So on selecting the vehicle and choosing the TPMS diagnose application, you directly end up in this menu, and actually, as you can see in this menu, according to the number 1, 2, 3, 4, TPMS diagnose, program, sensor, position, relearn, and information. So this is the procedure or the order which we would recommend you to follow as well. That's why we came up with this order. So first diagnose diagnose this TPMS system, and then program a sensor if it's required, and at the end do a relearn procedure. So first we'll start with the TPMS diagnose. In the TPMS, once you press that, the new screen dialog box will come up saying you'll need to trigger all the 4 sensors on all the 4 or 5 wheels, all the sensors, and then you'll need to connect the OBD tool to the OBD port, and that the reason for that is to first we retrieve all the information from all the 4 wheels or all the 5 wheels, and retrieve that sensor information, and on connecting to the OBD we can compare those information with the ECU information, and then check the ECU IDs, read DTCs and erase DTCs in OBD diagnose itself. So moving on. So this is the first procedure. I mean, the trigger all the 4 sensors. So on triggering all the 4 sensors, as you can see on the rear right, So as you can see on the rear right, the air pressure is too high, which is highlighted in red, and even on the front left it is low. The green shows it's in a 25% difference, under 25% difference from the manufacturer specification of tire pressure. So some notes to be made, like always may trigger the spare tire in advance before you proceed to the next screen. So in case of a duplicated sensor ID, a D icon will appear next to the tire. If the sensor does not trigger, an X will appear. So in this case, we do not have that situation. So in case if there is a duplicate sensor ID, a D mark with this color will be coming up. And if you're not able to trigger a particular wheel sensor, TPMS sensor in any particular wheel location, then a cross sign will come up in red. So once we have triggered all the 4 sensors, the screen advances to the next screen. And this is after we connect the tool to the OBD. And yes, so then we can understand different information. We can understand the TPMS system for that particular car. In this particular scenario, the sensor ID in the rear right does not match the ID stored in the control module. So there is an ID stored in this side of this particular sensor, but that ID is different from what's stored in the vehicle's ECU. So that is the reason for this icon shown up in red, and the green shows that the ID matches the sensor ID matches the ECU, the one stored in the ECU for the right location. If a gray this icon appears, then that means the sensor would not activate. So as you can see on the rear left wheel, the pressure is okay. ID matches the ECU ID, but the battery is weak. So the sensor needs to be replaced. And you could toggle around, use the buttons to toggle around each wheel. And once you toggle around each wheel, you could see the information or description of the status of that particular wheel, TPMS sensor on the wheel, or the TPMS system of that particular wheel. So in this particular wheel, once we reach this position, it says the ECU ID matches the sensor ID. And as you can see on the hood, that's where you can check all the DTCs present on the tire pressure monitoring system. You can enter onto that screen and see if there are any trouble codes present. And to know more details, you can press Y, and let's press Y and view the sensor details. So on pressing Y, we'll reveal the sensor ID information. In this case, we can see that the ID on the rear right does not match the ID stored in the TPMS control module. So yeah, that's the reason for the red. The condition was previously reported by the presence of a red OBD trigger icons, if you remember on the previous screen. If you press on the right arrow key, it will provide you additional information such as the pressure, temperature, battery status. So even on the rear left, you could see the battery status is low, and it was even identified in this screen. So yeah, and even if there's an ID mismatch, yeah, all the information will be shown.
So if you press the end button, we can return to the main status screen. Use the arrow keys to select the TPMS icon, which is on the hood. And the orange color of this means there is a DTC present. If it is in gray, that means there is no DTCs present. It's all clear. And once we press Y, we can see the DTCs. And yeah, we can check and we can erase the DTCs if you have if you want. And when all DTCs are cleared, it will be shown in gray. So everything is all right. Everything turns green, and indicates the sensor IDs and the locations matches now. And the OBD relearn procedure is complete. So now we'll talk about the different products Autel offers for TPMS services. So the first one we'll talk about is one IN product, which is the Maxisys MS906TS. So you might be aware of Maxisys MS906, the diagnostic tool which has a lot of capabilities and features. So it's a very professional bidirectional diagnostic tool which has a lot of TPMS functions as well. I mean, all the TPMS function any TPMS tool could have in Autel's range, which is 4 modes of TPMS MX sensor programming and diagnose the full tire pressure monitoring system. Then 3 modes of TPMS relearn, which we have discussed before. It's the stationary, auto, and OBD relearn. And it can also read the live TPMS data. And the other tool is the Maxi Pro MP808TS. So as you can see in common, you can see TS in common on both at the end. So if you see TS and see the red, a yellow logo on the right corner of the screen, that means the tool is equipped with the TPMS service functions as well. So this particular model MP808TS has all the features, all the diagnostic capabilities of a DS808BT, even that's a bidirectional tool. And it has all the TPMS features as MS906TS as well, like a TPMS diagnose, one step for complete TPMS health check, then 4 modes of MX sensor programming as I've discussed before, and 3 modes of TPMS relearn, and it also reads the live TPMS data. Other tool is TS608, Maxi TPMS TS608. So this, if you are aware of Autel's MX808 maximum, MX808 diagnostic tool or a service tool, it has the same capabilities plus all the tire pressure monitoring system features, which is similar to the other 2 models which I've discussed before, MP808TS and MS906TS. The other plus point is that this is a perfect tool for any tire shop or a service center. So as a service menu which has over 20 different service functions, which includes the oil reset, electronic parking brake release. This is a tool and full diagnostic capabilities to read and clear DTCs for all the systems on the car. So it's the right tool to be bought for a tire shop or a service center. So other products includes these TS508 and 408 are the designated tools for Autel TPMS range. So this is only capable of doing TPMS functionalities, nothing on diagnostics on any other systems of the vehicle. So TS508 does all the features, including
the diagnosis, 4 modes of MX sensor programming, 3 modes of Relearn as the other tools, and the live TPMS live data. Then the big advantage of this tool is it's a lifetime free update. You don't need to pay anything extra for the lifetime of this tool. You can update and keep on using on the newer cars coming into the market. The difference between TS508 and 408 is that 408 only has 2 modes of TPMS relearn procedure, which is the stationary relearn and the auto relearn. So it doesn't support the OBD relearn function. And also this device also has the lifetime free updates. Now let's talk about some other products on the TPMS, Autel TPMS range of products, which is the Autel MX sensors, which are mainly classified into 3 types, and that is the 433 megahertz MX sensor, the 315 megahertz MX sensor, and a unique Autel product, which is Autel MX1 sensor that can be used for cars with both the frequencies, which are 315 and 433 megahertz. So it can be programmed for both the frequencies. Also, all the above 3 types of Autel MX sensors comes with metal as well as rubber valves. And Autel sensor types comes with a patented valve press release design, which makes it more convenient and durable. Which makes it more convenient to replace and much more durable, comparing the screw-in sensors. Then other one is the Maxi TPMS pad, or also called the Maxi TPMS programming accessory device. It is a perfect tool for busy shops. It frees up your TPMS activation tools for important projects. So you can attach this particular device, the TPMS pad, to your Windows-based computer. Actually, it's a easy to use Maxi and test and programs universal Autel MX sensors using this tool quickly. Now, after this slide comes 2 videos. So the first video is on TPMS relearn procedure, carrying out TPMS relearn procedures using Autel TPMS tools, and after that, a video shows Autel TPMS sensor programming using Autel TPMS tools. Enjoy the video.
Easily perform a TPMS relearn function using the Maxi TPMS TS608. Generally, there are 3 relearn methods. OBD relearn is used to write the sensor ID to the ECU via OBD2 connection. Turn on your Autel Maxi TPMS TS608. Select TPMS on the main menu and follow the on-screen instructions to select your vehicle make, model, year. Tap the Relearn tab on the function menu. The tool will display the relearn procedure for the selected vehicle. Read the relearn procedure carefully and follow the instructions. Ensure all tires are inflated to the pressure listed on the vehicle placard. Starting with the front left tire, use the TPMS tool to trigger each sensor in the following order: front left, front right, rear left, and spare tire, if equipped with TPMS sensor. turn the vehicle's ignition to the on position. Plug the Maxi VCI Mini into the vehicle's OBD2 port. Tap the VCI icon on the tablet to access the VCI Manager and pair the tablet with the VCI Mini. Once paired, return to the TPMS menu and tap the Relearn tab. If instructed, re-trigger each sensor. Tap the OBD2 Relearn button on the bottom of the display. A message will display if the IDs have been written to the vehicle. Turn off the ignition and then turn on the ignition. If instructed, test drive the vehicle for 10 minutes at over 19 miles per hour, 30 kilometers per hour. Ensure the TPMS malfunction light no longer displays. The sensor IDs have been written to the ECU, and the tool will automatically erase the DTCs present in the ECU. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or suggestions about our products, please visit our website or simply contact us. The Maxi TPMS TS508 provides 4 easy methods of programming MX sensors. Turn on TS508 and choose Advanced Mode. Select the vehicle make, model, and year. Then select Program Sensor Function. There are 4 methods to program MX sensor: copy by OBD, copy by activation, copy by manual input, and auto create. Copy by OBD. Connect TS508 to the vehicle by OBD2 cable and turn ignition on. Press Y to continue. TS508 will automatically read sensor IDs from the ECU and display the IDs on the screen. Place the MX sensor near the top of the TS508 and select one sensor ID. Press Y to copy the ECU sensor ID into the MX sensor. Copy by OBD, when available, is highly recommended as an efficient sensor programming method. No relearn is necessary when the MX sensor is put in the same replaced sensor position. Copy by activation. Place the TS508 near the original sensor to trigger and acquire the sensor ID. Place a new MX sensor near the top of the TS508 and press Y to start programming. The original sensor ID will be copied into the new MX sensor. Copy by manual input. You can also program the MX sensor by manually input the original OE sensor ID into the TPMS tool. This ID can be found on the OE sensor body. Enter the sensor ID into the tool. Press Yes to program the ID into the MX sensor. Hex, Deck, and Auto can be changed in Setting. Auto Create. Auto Create will generate a new ID randomly for an MX sensor. You can program from 1 to a maximum of 16 sensors at the same time. Put the sensors close to TS508. Keep other sensors away. The tool will automatically detect the sensor. Press Y to confirm. Each sensor will be programmed with a specific sensor ID. Relearn is necessary for Auto Create. You may watch our TPMS Relearn function video for further training. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or suggestions about our products, please visit our website or simply contact us.
I hope you all were able to relate the videos from the slides we have presented, from the information you have got from the presentation. And we have come to an end of the session. Thank you so much for staying till the end of this session, and I hope you made use of this time, and I hope you all will be joining for coming up sessions. Also, this session has been recorded and will be uploaded onto our YouTube and Facebook YouTube channel and Facebook page, which is now called the Autel IMEA, as you can see here. Make sure you follow us on our Facebook page, and you subscribe to our channel for more such videos and training sessions. We'll be updating and making announcement there on future training sessions. Thank you again. Thank you for the support.